Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aiden,
And I'm Casey.
and no Jack this week. He has some professional commitments at the job that actually pays him, so was not able to join us. But we did get another great guest, and before I just I'll say it. So Alec Jernstedt, Cannon's offensive coordinator, sat down with us for a great conversation. And Casey, I gotta say, we've been on a great run of guests these last couple of weeks. Jack Keelty to Brian Holman, now to Alec Jernstedt. Obviously we got to get John O'Darnell on here soon.
Yes.
Um, but I don't know how we top it unless we get, just player a week, maybe. That,
I think that sounds great. That's a
yeah,
great idea.
it's ambitious, but I think we can do it.
Guys, if you're watching,
Yep. Um, so yeah, hopefully you all have enjoyed those past couple ones. We've had a great time talking to everyone. And had a great time talking to Alec, which we'll throw over in a second here. But this is the last episode we're going to have before the season starts. Thank goodness. It's been too long. February feels like a while ago, and
Mhm.
especially with the way the last regular season ended or last playoffs ended, really want to redeem ourselves. So, um, Casey will be there in person in Albany, so if you see her, say hello. But Jack and I and all the other diehard Cannons fans in Boston will be once again at West End Johnnie's, which is very close to TD Garden, so super easy to get to with public transportation. We'll be there about a half hour before the game, 6:30 on Saturday. We'll have some merch to give away, some signed cards, some Cannons apparel. So show up for a chance to win some of that, and to cheer on the boys. I think we'll give a little bit more discussion after, but I think now we'll just throw it over to our conversation with Alec. And thank you to Alec Jernstedt, new offensive coordinator of the Cannons, for coming on. Alec, how's camp been going so far?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Camp has been really fun. I've been super impressed. Just honestly with the whole operation, the league does a really good job. It's super organized. They make getting here easy. Every team has a liaison. Shout out Colin is doing an awesome job for us. And so he handles like travel and all that kind of stuff. Um, there's food everywhere. There's snacks going on. The schedule's been great. The practices are really competitive, and it's just cool to see. I mean, honestly, it's very humbling for me. It's like you walk into the gym, and I think when we started, there's 180 of the best lacrosse players in the world right now on campus here at Albany. And so um, just to be surrounded by so many, it's hard not to like fanboy a little bit. And I was joking with the guys, I feel like a freshman in college again, where you're like, where's the cafeteria? Like the older guys are talking to me. This is cool, and obviously my role is different than theirs, but it's a really cool experience. And as adults, right? Like it's been 20 years since I got to go to like summer camp, and it's literally summer camp. It's 9 days of like lacrosse. The guys were all throwing a football yesterday. We got a cookout tonight, and it's literally like being in a kid again, going to overnight lacrosse camp. So it's been really cool, and the guys have been fantastic. We just have such like special guys on the team. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And then the lacrosse is obviously extremely competitive. And they're working hard that way too. So it's been really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, we love to hear it. Cannot wait for them to get back out in the field finally on Saturday. I know, got that extra bonus lacrosse of champ series, but it still feels like it's been a long time since we've seen the Cannons play. So can't wait to get back.
Yeah.
Too long.
Um,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess let's just dive into how you got started with lacrosse in general, and then how you found your way to being on the Canada's coaching staff.
Yeah, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and my dad came home with a stick one time. He was driving by a field, and there was a team practicing, like seventh or eighth graders, and I was in first grade. And he stopped to watch it because he had never seen lacrosse before, and got out of his car at the end and asked the coach, like, "What is this?" My dad's kind of a curious guy, and he explained it, and he sold him two sticks out of his trunk. So he brings the sticks home, and we're like, "Well, what do we do with these?" And he's like, "You throw it," and he kind of showed us, and we're like, "Okay." And he's like, "Well, there's no teams for like first graders." So they sat in our garage, and every like once a year they would come out. We'd kind of fiddle with them, and it was like a novelty item. And finally, about I think I was in sixth grade. my dad was like, "Hey, you're old enough to play." It kind of got younger as I got older, and it met me in sixth grade, and so I started playing, and um, yeah, that was how I kind of got my start in the sport. And obviously, it's been sort of a lead in a lot of things that have happened in my life. I played at Towson, and I won't bore you with that whole story, but stayed on the East Coast. My wife went to Georgetown. We met. She's from New Jersey, so I was kind of, I don't say I was stuck out here, willingly stuck, if you will. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I spent some time working at Duke. I met Coach Holman. Honestly, I was working at a camp, honestly, just like PL training camp, but for little kids, and we were staying in the dorms at UNC, and in the night the coaches would come down in the lobby and they would talk, and I just remember now it's been almost 10, 12 years. I don't know. We just struck up a conversation, and we have a lot of shared values. Faith is something that's important to us, and just the way that we coach, the way that we think. I was young, and I just always found it impactful that he was willing to take the time with me. I was, Duke UNC. It's like I was
Yeah.
shocked he even spoke to me that I was invited. Um, but just his thoughtfulness with me, and I've always kind of appreciated him and followed his career, and um, so. Yeah, and then in terms of, I guess to finish your question, getting involved with the Cannons this year, actually always, I don't know what I thought of the PLL. I watched it, I was a fan, but I didn't know what to make of it, I guess, as a business entity. And then I watched the Fate of the Sport documentary with the Rabels, and to get the insight into like the business and how thorough they were and how thoughtful they were. Have you guys seen that? I mean, it's really
Yeah.
interesting on
Yeah.
ESPN. Yeah. And I just came away from it and I was like, this is going to be a big deal. These guys are doing a really good job. And I know those guys take a lot of heat, and whether you like them or not, like they are doing an excellent job running the league from my vantage point. And so that was probably like 4 years ago. I started reaching out to some people about like being involved, and never kind of found the right fit. I talked to a couple other coaching staffs, and so last year I actually kind of like Coach Holman and I talked all season, during the year, and tried to kind of just give some input where it was valuable. And then this year, when the staff kind of turned over, myself and John were added, and yeah, I was really excited about it. So it's kind of been a long time coming from that first, drive-by accidental lacrosse introduction all the way to today. It's been really fun.
Cool. I mean, that has got to be the most unique story I've ever heard on how someone got started playing lacrosse. I know
Yeah, I
the
mean, we had literally never seen the sport. It wasn't on TV, right? It was like, you wouldn't have thought to turn it on Memorial Day weekend if you didn't know what it was. And so it was like, yeah, this was probably 1999. I was probably like 8, 9, 10 years old. So yeah.
wow. And who
When
was
did
this one?
you
Yeah.
when did you know that you wanted to be a coach?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, I always coached. Like when I went home in the summers and stuff from college, I would work with younger kids, sixth graders, guys like that. I coached Tucker Dordovic on like a third grade team, so that's my claim to fame. Us Oregon guys got to stick together. There's a couple guys in the league, Hanley and Ajax, and I'm sure there's a couple I'm missing. Ross Scott, I met yesterday. Um, so I always kind of knew I was drawn to coaching. When I graduated from college, I thought I wanted to be in like the CIA or the FBI. So I moved down to DC and quickly found that that was not a place I was going to get into. My dad always kind of instilled this idea of like, I just remember him distinctly. The first day of school every year, like when I was in second grade, he'd be like, "Remember when the first graders or when the third graders used to talk to you last year?" Like, "Yeah, Dad," and how cool it made you feel. Like, "Yeah, Dad." He's like, "Well, now you're a third grader and you got to like, be that for the second graders." He was always kind of getting me to look backwards, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so like I was the kind of kid, like growing up, like, even in my teenage years, I would be like at the kids' table at Thanksgiving, like hanging with the 7-year-old cousins and stuff. Um, and so I don't know if that was kind of where I was wired, but yeah, after I got out of, or when it got off the, the Secret Service path, I found coaching, and just, I loved it. I'd always done it. And I hadn't really thought of it as like a profession. But sort of started pursuing it in that way. And obviously I had some chances to work in college, and yeah, I think it just kind of suits who I am and sort of who I was like raised to be, or at least like raised to think about. Just helping people that were younger than me. I know that's kind of a weird thing, but like that was I don't know why my dad was hung up on that, but it was like a point of emphasis growing up for me. So yeah, that's kind of how I
Maybe he
got here.
saw something in you.
Yeah, it's like one of those divine things, you can
Yeah.
kind of sense where somebody should be pointed, and he was sure to like, instill that. So yeah, I never feel like I work, like I can't believe I get paid to do any of this. It's just like really cool. So it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Amazing. Um, so I mean, talking about, I guess, like being a leader and taking care of people younger than you, you are the only head coach in the D3 history of Grove City. So
Yeah.
what was that like year one? And I guess, what's that that process been like, basically
Yeah.
shepherding that program?
Yeah. So I was working at Duke at the time, and I had a buddy that was an alum, and he was like, "Hey, my alma mater is starting a program," and I was like, my own arrogance and ego, I was like, "Drew, I never heard of your school. I haven't spent much time in Pennsylvania. I work at Duke. Like, I don't think so." And it was like kind of a long process. I won't go into the detail, but obviously I took the job, and year one was like they gave me a list. So they had a club team, so they gave me a list of all the players who had played club the year before, and they were like, here you go. Good luck. So I had to reach out to them and I had to and so we started with like 35 guys. Then there was 30 before we even had a first practice. Then after the fall, there was like 25, and then there was 22. And I still remember my first practice. We hadn't figured out like the schedule yet. So we were on this like back grass field that was like barely mowed. And we didn't have like matching gear yet. And like the helmets were all wonky. And I just remember being like 10 minutes in, like, what have I done? Like, this is so bad. Like, what? I wonder if Coach Danowski will take me back. Like, we are atrocious. Like, and I had all these grand ideas of like, we're going to do what Duke did. And, I don't know. And it was like, literally through the stick drills, I was like, all right, we got to throw everything out the window. And this is going to be a whole different thing. So, but the guys have been awesome. The kids on the team are great. And yeah, we built a pretty successful program. They've won 6 conference championships in a row. And we played against some of the best teams in the country this year and we're close and, it's not good enough, but yeah, it's been quite a journey. And again, that's not what this is about, but, uh, it's a lot of fun and I take a lot of pride in it, and I think our guys do too. If like, I describe myself like a guy in the back of the boat. I have the rudder, right? And so I've just kind of given them a vision, but ultimately I don't row the boat. And you can row out of sync and you spin around the pond or you can row in sync. I think of like the Harvard rowing team, right? Like in those little things and they can warm up or they can like, 23 strokes per minute and they zip right down, and so yeah, I just give them the direction and try to call out a cadence, but ultimately they got to want to do it, and they've done a really good job of advancing us from nothing to something in a shortish period of time, at least, So it's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at the school's history, like the success that you've had with that program pretty soon on, I mean, speaks to to you and to the caliber of player and person that you're able to recruit. I mean, 6 conference championships in a row and 8 or 9 seasons is quite impressive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. And I think again, I go back to even like some of those early conversations with Coach Holman, like just talent is great, but like culture is really everything. And I see that now with the Cannons and from the first couple of years he got here when they were the worst team in the league or one of, and it wasn't like the personnel immediately changed, but the the vision of the team did, and then the personnel follows. And so, really, if anything, just kind of been mimicking that at a different level. And so, now to be here is really fun to be part of it as it's matured at Grove City, and also now, as I think last year we were in the top half of the league, so it's that's something that we want to continue to improve on.
Absolutely. What lessons from starting that program and from Duke are you taking with you to the Cannons and what differences have there been between D1, D3 and the pros? You're very early on
Yeah,
in your pro career.
yeah, yeah. In Division 1, you can kind of do whatever you want as a coach because your talent level is so high. At least at Duke, obviously, I'm speaking just to that experience. You get such good players, they can kind of do a lot of almost anything, but there's still a very heavy like player development model to it if you're doing it well, in my opinion. And then at Grove City, I can't always recruit like the best players, or I can't always recruit guys that can do everything. So you really have to like adjust your style to what you have. And so I've kind of learned through that experience I hope how to be a more flexible coach, particularly like thinking about offense, right? Like at Duke, you had a bunch of guys that could do a lot of things. And at Grove City, I might have one guy that can dodge, one guy that can pass, and one guy that can shoot, and none of them can do any other things. And so you got to figure out how to sequence those things together in order to have success. And then you jump, and it's obviously individual skill development and player development. You're trying to build on those initial skill sets. Then you jump back to these guys, and we have no time to do like player development, but you're back to guys that can do all of the things again, for the most part. And obviously they have strengths like Ryan Drenner and Asher Nolting are very different, but they can do a lot of things. And so, and ultimately they just see more and they just learn quicker. So I think the biggest difference for me so far has just been how fast they can pick something up. Like from one scrimmage to the second scrimmage, it was like night and day earlier this week, Sunday to Monday. And just off of like one little half film session and a meeting, it was not like we did much. And then I'm just trying to give these guys more, I don't want to say more respect, because I respect our guys, but respect for like their own intelligence and ability. And we talked about, reading from the same book and then just trying to get on the same page. And it's sort of my job to tell them what book we're reading, if this analogy makes any sense. And then they got to get on the same page with each other by, their own chemistry and play and communication and just giving them some language and some words to use. But, are we in this book or are we all in this book? And then you guys are skilled enough, at Grove City, I got to kind of almost like type out the words for them. And like, this is exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so just letting go of control really is and I think I've kind of had that instinct coming in, and the guys have proven me right in that way, that like they really just need some guidance. The last thing I'll say too to this is, to our guys' credit, they really are craving accountability. They crave coaching. Like we just had an hour and a half long film session today. I thought like there's no way they're going to be into this, and every single guy stayed. We were like, hey, D guys can be dismissed halfway through, and all the D guys just didn't even move. I'm like, okay, and like they really want to get better and they really want to be taught, and they don't have any sense of arrogance or ego to them. Like they want to hear what we have to say, and so that makes it really easy and really fun too. So it's been like, just been super impressed with the guys.
Awesome.
Is there anybody that you're most excited to work with?
Oh, I like my Towson Tigers. We got Drenner and Goody.
Mhm.
So I was like, my coach in college called me a frustrated D-Mitty. So like I had like 160 points my last 2 years in high school. And then I got to Towson. I was like the worst guy on the team. So I was a D-Mitty, but I was like a D-Mitty that thought he could play offense. So everybody's experience is normative, right? So I always think like the D-Mitty is like the most important position on the team, because you're so involved. You're in the face-off game, you're in the defensive game, you're the tip of the spear in terms of transition. And when I just look at our guys, like I wish Bubba were here, but Trainer and Goody and drafting Ben Ramsey, like I don't know what everybody else was looking at, but he has been awesome, like an absolute steal of the draft. TJ Camizio we picked up was fantastic. Like just he's been awesome in camp, just an absolute pro. So those guys are my favorite because like when I think of offense, it starts with them, and like how do they introduce the ball into our half of the field, and then how do they get us into a flow? And I just think we have some of the best in the league, and particularly some of the most offense. Like Jeff Trainer could easily play offense on one of these teams, but he's just super humble and he's a tough dude and he loves his role. And so, yeah, I would say the D-Middies for sure. That whole group is like the guys that I get excited about working with.
Awesome. Yeah, we love to hear that. As much love for the governor as we can muster on this
Oh
podcast.
yeah, he is the governor. He's like the face of the team, in my opinion. He's got the beard and his beard. I don't think he shaved since last season, and you're gonna like the look. He's ready to rip, man.
Oh yeah,
He's a great player and just a great dude. What a fun guy to be around. He's awesome.
yeah, yeah. We've loved every time we've talked to him. How did I guess you were an offensive guy in high school, but how did someone who played primarily defense through college get to be the offensive coordinator?
Yeah. Well, I've coached offense, at Delaware. That was something that I did. I sort of see the game differently, and I've always been sort of a curious mind, I guess, in a way. I think a lot of people want to equate lacrosse to like football, where it's like you have your defensive coordinator and your offensive coordinator. I see the game much more like basketball, and you wouldn't say I'm the defensive basketball coach. You're just a basketball coach, right? And I think a lot of guys like, if I don't really understand how the defense works, how could I really understand what I'm trying to accomplish offensively? And vice versa. If I don't really understand what offenses are trying to do, how do I coach a defense to stop something that I couldn't teach myself? So in some ways, it's like it's like when you were in debate class, like they give you a topic and then they say, okay, debate the pros, and then you have to flip around and then you have to also debate the cons. Like if you can't do both, probably neither argument is going to be as robust. And so I just personally think that like you should probably at some point be challenged to do both. And then I would say like at Grove City, I have great assistant coaches, but they're generally young and we have a little higher rate of turnover and some of them are volunteers. So like everything we do on the field at Grove City is I have kind of said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I've taught my assistants and then my assistants teach that. So like the face-off game, the riding game, the clearing game, man up, man down, like all of that stuff. We start with what I would like them to do. And then once they teach that, then they can do whatever they want. So, I've spent 8 years having to coach every facet of the game, and just by need in that case. But I just also kind of my own opinion. I just think you should at least challenge yourself at some point to kind of understand both. So I don't see it as that hard. And then I just find offense more fun because defense ultimately it's like, no offense to Jail, but it's kind of attitude and intensity but ultimately it's reactionary. Like I can't really dictate, defensive coordinators like we got to dictate this and that. And like the reality is you can't really dictate a whole lot. Like the offense is going to have a say about what happens. And so the defenders are like the grunts, and I was one, so I'm not slandering anyone, but like it's like we just kind of do what we're told and get real foamy at the mouth. And then offense is more like a thinking man's, like it takes poise and patience and creativity and you can kind of be tricky or you can be simple and like there's so many ways that you can do it. So I like thinking that way. I like to play chess and I don't like to play checkers. It's like so I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but I just think it's kind of all, I think they're all just much more interconnected than a lot of people want to think about it.
Oh, definitely. Do you actually play chess, or was that just a metaphor?
Not well,
Mm.
a little bit. I'd say I dabble, but we have some guys on our team at Grove City that are like excellent chess players, and I get smoked by those guys. So I would not say well, no.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm again not a very good player myself either, but to enjoy that from on the train ride home every once in a while.
Nice, good,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Didn't
Um,
you have that with you when we went to Gillette this past weekend?
oh yeah, I have a mini chessboard that I keep in my backpack for travel and stuff. So
Okay, so you play a little more than like once in a while. I mean, you got the board with you, the travel board.
yeah, it takes over some afternoons and evenings from time to time. Uh,
That's great.
yeah. Um, what are we going to see out of the Alec Jernstedt led offense this
Hmm.
year that is maybe different from what we saw in previous years?
Yeah. I mean, obviously these guys have been great. I know Coach Mitch. We are he actually was in the same position as I was at Duke a couple years in front of me. So
Mhm.
we've known each other for a bit, and I think he's an awesome coach. And so to me, it wasn't like, you know, and he just, moved on from the position. It's not like I'm coming in to fix a problem.
Yeah.
And so trying to be delicate in um I don't want to change something that's not broken. Obviously, the first year or 2 years ago, they were like prolific, and then last year there was a little bit of a drop off. And so some of the things I've noticed is just one, getting back to playing fast, like using those the governor and the gang to really initiate the offense. I think in this league with a 52-second shot clock, everybody's got to be ready to play and score a goal like all the time. And so getting back to like running a little bit more than maybe we have. And I think when we were at our best last year, we were doing that. Um, and then just being really hyper efficient between the boxes and the subbing game, um, and the transition game. Um, and then honestly, again, like I said, I think we lost a little bit of our flow last year from the year prior when we were like setting records and just trying to find our spacing again. And so when I graduated from Towson, I worked at a Chipotle, and I've told the guys this story already, but I worked at Chipotle for like 6 months. And the only thing I really remember from the training was when the line is out the door, everybody's supposed to kind of learn how to do everything in the kitchen, the grill and the register and the chips and all that stuff. But when the line's out the door, they say aces in their places. So whoever your best grill guy and your best register person and your best burrito roller is, like they need to be there so that we can be the most efficient. And so really just establishing a sense of like where is each guy at his best, and then how do we get them there the most?
Mm.
so that we're not just running around. Like last year when I watched some of the games, I felt like we were moving to move, and it's like great, it's very enthusiastic, and rather say whoa than giddy up, but we're moving with no purpose, and we're not putting guys where they really want to be. And so just trying to, and that's been part of my job is to learn the guys and like where are you most comfortable? Like if we were going to drop, I've asked a couple guys, like if we're going to drop a play for you out of timeout, where would you put yourself?
Mm.
Because I don't want to then put them somewhere they don't see themselves, and some guys see themselves as the goal scorer, and that's awesome. He's confident, he wants to score. Some guys see themselves as a picker, or a cutter or whatever. Like that's great. I see myself in the low corner, the high corner, like all that stuff is really good for me to understand so that I'm not asking people to do things that they're not great at. And again, so I just kind of set the framework of the book that we're going to read together, and then they can kind of like sort through what page they all want to get on as to go back to that. But yeah, I think it's just a good sense of spacing and a good sense of tempo from when the ball comes over the 50. If we have 35 seconds left, 52 seconds left, 32 off the face off, we want to be attacking that whole time. Like
Mm.
really a constant sense of pressure and not just, I want to not have to dump the ball in the corner because we took too long, and I don't want to have like single shot possessions. Like, can we get multiple shots? Can we end with offense? Do we not have to like get jammed up where we don't have any time and somebody's like panic throwing it in the corner because we never really quite got organized? So that's my main focus through the first 5 days, and the guys have been really receptive to that.
Awesome.
I can't give too much away,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fair.
I'm sure Mike Preslow's listening. Yeah.
yeah. He's a big battery fan.
I mean, hey, any chance to scout your opponent, right?
Yeah, yeah. You never know.
Yeah. So we had a couple people write in from Instagram too, and as you could imagine, they were pretty much all asking about Coulter McAsee.
Sure.
What have you seen from him so far? Where do you kind of see him fitting in on the offense? And
Yeah.
how is that thing between him and Will Manny gonna work out?
Yeah. Coulter's been awesome. It's funny because I haven't actually seen him a whole lot, and I'll come back to that in a second. But so he got to camp. We had a couple practices, and he played in our first scrimmage. Um, Coulter's just like he's just cool. Like he's a cool guy. He's a cool presence. He's like very like mellow. He's super poised. He's just got like an easy smile, and he plays kind of the same way. Like he doesn't press anything. He can kind of. He seems like he seems like he could go to any team on campus here's practice and just suit up for them and probably score a goal. Like he could just kind of play with anybody. He's got like this great game that he doesn't have to impose himself, and he does a good job getting open, and when he's open he scores, and he kind of understands how to play off other people. Um, so he's been really fun to work with. Uh, so on early in the week he had his graduation at Princeton, so he left. Really begrudgingly, he was like, we were like, I don't think he would have stayed, but we were like, dude, it was almost like he felt bad to leave. But like, this is like a major deal. You just graduated from Princeton. And then he went straight from there. He's at the Tewaaraton thing tonight.
Right.
And he's flying back tomorrow. And I think he's going to be back for practice tomorrow, but I'm not sure.
Wow.
So we're just having conversations with Coulter about how do we put him in the best position on Saturday to be successful. And maybe that's, giving him a chance to just watch the first game, having missed a lot, um, obviously as a staff, we're going to talk about what's the best thing for the team. And then to your question about Will, like we have Will, and Will is he's a total pro. And I mean, Will and I are like, he's only a year younger than me. Like Will,
Mm.
my last college game ever was at UMass, and I was guarding Will, and I think he went for like 5 on us, and we lost. So Will Manny ended my career. So it's not like I'm a stranger to Will Manny. And so I have a level of comfortability with him. We've known each other for a while, not like I wouldn't say we're like really close, but we've known each other for a long time, like obviously as competitors, and then we met off the field when he was at Utah, um, and I'm just familiar with him. And so it's not been hard for me and he to get on the same page like at all. Um, and so, you have this veteran presence, and then you ask yourself, okay, week one, um, we're in, we got to play the home team in a homecoming weekend in a night game. Like, who's the most ready, given all the preparation, to handle that situation? And how do we put everybody in a situation to be, again, aces in their places, the best version of themselves, and play with a lot of confidence? And so that's kind of been the conversation with the coaching staff this week. I think they could coexist. I think we also got a lot of guys that are doing a good job in the midfield too. So um, it definitely it's hard, man. Like make it the roster here and just even taking this question to just the general group. Like this is, talking to Coach Holman, this is the deepest the Cannons have ever been. Like,
Yeah.
he was like in the past, we were like kind of just looking for guys to be on the 25 man. Even cutting from the 29 to the 25 was like it was a hard conversation. Like it took us 2 hours one night to just even three spots, and now when you talk about the 25 to the 19, there's probably, I said this to Brian, I think there's eight different versions of the cannons that we could put out there and could win,
Yeah.
and so it's hard. It's like, again, just trying to find that right mix and maybe we'll get it right and maybe we'll get it wrong. And, our kind of promise to the guys and to the fans and everybody is like, we want to win just as bad as everybody else does, as they do, as you guys do. And so, and we're not dumb and we're going to see it. And if it works, we're going to, try not to screw it up. And if it doesn't work, we're putting a lot of time and energy in this to put the best group on the field that gives us the best chance to be successful. And so, um, definitely a lot of respect for those guys and having more than less is awesome. Last year we had none and it was just kind of a tricky, Matt at the end and whatever. But this has been fun and challenging all in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was to your point about how deep the roster is, I was thinking as I was like in the shower a couple of days ago, like I don't know how you're going to cut it down to, I mean, even just between, Goodrich, Trainer, Ramsey and Camizio is like four
Yeah.
options. You're only dressing three. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't envy that conversation on how to decide which six guys are not going to sit or are going to
Yeah.
sit
It's brutal.
on
It's brutal.
yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal. And I think we've also talked about, the 19 is not going to be the 19 for the whole year. It's
Right.
like if they're not on the 19, it doesn't mean they got sent to purgatory. Those guys are really important to the program and they stay really engaged with us and we engage with them, obviously. And, there's no way nobody's going to get hurt over the course of the season. So having guys at the ready that we feel confident in is really important. And even just preparing for that to some degree, like keeping guys, let's say that injury happens in the 12th week of the season. Well, if the guy we're going to plug in has not played one time, even like that's a tough ask, So how do we get sort of everybody through where we're ready for whatever situation? And it's, one of the things I learned at Duke that's really important, from Coach Zanowski has been important for me at Grove City is like we're not conceding the early games, but we got to understand that there's like we got to win on Saturday, but then we're also trying to be the best version of ourselves in September, and on the championship day, how do we be the best, deepest, most prepared version of ourselves? And so it's a long game, and sometimes the decisions you make aren't always about just right now. It's about looking forward, and you're trying to balance not, selling this moment out for the future, but also not being so focused on this moment that you have no plan for like the inevitable, if that makes sense. And that's the coaching balance. There's no right answer because no one can look in the future and say, oh, week 12, this guy's going to get hurt. We should have been preparing better.
Hmm.
There's just no way to do that. So it's just, trying to find that line. And I appreciate Coach Holman's approach. He's just really thoughtful and our staff has been great at bouncing, if thans off each other and the benefit of being a summer camp, we can stay up all night and talk about this for hours, which we like
Yeah,
to
tough.
do.
I
So
know I know Coach Holman is not really a night owl, but how late are you guys staying up and talking about
Uh, Jo and I were joking. I don't know if Coach will listen to this, but we feel like we start losing him around 8:30. He starts rubbing the
Yep.
eyes and shrugging the shoulder, and we're like, anything hard hitting needs to be discussed before 8:30. Anything fun and philosophical can go on after that. But yeah, he turns it in like, but he's an early riser. Yeah, like
yeah.
I get up at 7 and he's been up, and there's two cold coffees that he got for Jo and I. Like, so he goes out at I don't know, I think he gets up at 5 a.m. and he goes out and gets coffee for everybody. And by the time I get up at 7 a.m., mine is cold. Like it's been there. So I don't know when he's going. And he'll come in, ripping at like 8:30 and Jay and I are like, I'm sorry, you slept on what? You had what idea this morning? So it just kind of it's the young guys and the captain, so we're just not quite on the same schedule. But yeah, Jo and I have been up late, kind of starting to work on the game plans and stuff like that. So the chemistry is high within the staff. It's been a lot of fun, and we all, I think, really respect each other. And Coach Holman's a great leader.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that definitely shines through in the conversations we've had with him. Very grateful to have him leading the ship and to have you on that leading the offense, but also, the transition game and everything else that comes with that, as you mentioned. It's not two discrete sides of the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Casey, do you have anything else that you wanted to ask about?
Yeah, let's hear about some interests or hobbies that you have outside of lacrosse and off the field.
Um, yeah, right now, honestly, I know this is not really like a hobby, but as a younger coach, so I'm married, my wife Kelly, and then we have a 7-year-old daughter Charlotte and a 3-year-old son Trey. And then my Kelly is actually pregnant right now with twins, so we've got
Oh
that
my
going
gosh,
on.
twins.
Yeah, so we were at the ultrasound and they were like, this one and this one. I said, I'm sorry, it just should be that one. And they was like, oh, there's two in here. I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow,
So honestly,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, right now it's like, coaching is a demanding job, but it's also a flexible job at the same time. Like when we're in season, it's a lot of practice and a lot of like missed dinners and missed bedtimes and stuff. And so when I'm not doing this, like I really, and I've gotten better at this over the years, I think, just try to shut it down and just focus on them, and my daughter is really into like singing and music and art, and she has no interest in lacrosse, won't pick up a stick. Um, doesn't like soccer, it's like she kind of will dribble a basketball around, but she's all like art and wants to be a singer, she wants to be Taylor Swift. And my son is much more into like sports and stuff. He's getting into golf, and so just trying to do what they like to do, and I think as a parent, hopefully do a good job of just sort of making their hobbies your hobbies for now. I'll have my own time to do some of these things. So right now, lacrosse is kind of like it's a passion and a job, so it's those blurred lines get really kind of tough sometimes. But I think just just taking my son to the driving range, and he loves hitting golf balls, and let just listening to my daughter sing, like just letting her do a performance. And so just trying to be there and let their hobbies and identify their passions. Just like I guess my dad, to bring this conversation full circle, my dad maybe was doing for me, like really just trying to see the things that they're good at and interested in and stoke that and let them be the best versions of themselves, which is, it's something that I talk about at Grove City with our guys, just be your best. And Coach Holman, says the same thing. And, so it's really a lot of these things that we're talking about in coaching is really just about developing people. And so just being their best and helping other people be that for themselves, like that really is what I would say that maybe that's my hobby, is just helping people be the best version of themselves and enjoying seeing their success shine. I want the Cannons to win, not because I want to ring. If we won the championship right now, I probably wouldn't even want to get on stage. But like just to see the guys and see how hard they've worked at it and how much they care about it and see them get to celebrate and even just watching that from the crowd would just be amazing, and I'm sure I'll feel even more strongly as we go here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think that feels like an amazing note to end on. 'Cause I know you had a somewhat of a heart out. So, thank you very much for your time. This is a
Yeah,
fantastic conversation. Can't wait to. I know Casey will be there in Albany this weekend. And I'll see
great.
you in
If
obviously
you see the Jeff Trainer fathead, that's
Yeah.
me.
All right,
I'll be
good. Yeah,
waving it all
if I see you after or before, whatever, please
around.
say hi. And yeah, it'd be lovely to meet you in person. And hopefully we'll give you guys a good show. I think the guys are really excited to play. And obviously last year, first weekend didn't go so good. And so I think we're really determined to put our best foot forward here as we get going. So excited to play.
Yeah.
And we can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah. Can't wait. Only a few short days away. So yeah, Alec, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the
Yeah.
rest of the training camp there with the boys and safe travels when it's all over back to your family.
Yep. Sounds good. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Thank you. It's great to meet you both.
You too. Thanks again, Alec, for such a great conversation. Thanks for coming on and spending some time with us. It was really good to get to know one of our new coaches and to hear more about his background and just hear about who he is and his approach as a leader. I'm really excited. I don't know about you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, Coach Holman really has a knack for picking great characters as well as obviously great players and great lacrosse minds to be on his staff and his team. So just another example of that. Just talking about how how much joy and Jack Keelty talked about this too, how much joy he gets in like leading and celebrating
Hmm.
the people he's working with. Where
Yeah.
Jack talked about, particularly with his alma mater, Notre Dame, winning a championship after he left, the pride that he was able to take and the joy he was able to feel for those guys. And I think it's the same with Alec. Hopefully we're celebrating a championship in the middle of September, and every day after that. Um, and he, like he said, didn't even want to be on stage. Um,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was it was quite a wonderful tie-in to hear about how Will Manny kind of ended his career. Or not literally, but that was his last career game, was going up against UMass and Will Manny. He's a pretty good goal scorer, so it makes sense that he did come out on the end, come out on top on that one. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, listening to him talk, I definitely feel like him and Keelty are going to have a lot to talk about with each other. I think that they could probably bounce ideas off each other really well and learn from each other, especially based off what Keelty said when we had him on a couple weeks ago. Just their passion for leading, like he talked about. I'm really excited to see what comes from that.
yeah. And again, I gotta say again, the strangest story of how he came to play lacrosse and love lacrosse, of his dad like stopping on the side of the road, being
Yeah,
so fascinated by the sport that he just had to watch, and not like for a minute, like the whole practice.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that so much. Imagine if his dad didn't do that. We
I
might not
know.
even be sitting here talking about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we would have had another couple years to hopefully find the sport, but yeah, like you
Yeah.
have the sticks to as the starting point. Like yeah, what a amazing small like chance encounter like that can just totally change the course of your life.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really cool.
yeah. So yeah, thank you again to Al. I can't wait to see him in person, talk to him, and see how many goals he's responsible for the Cannons putting up this year. And speaking of the Cannons putting up goals, we got a game to talk about in a couple days. Well, we're talking about the game now. The game will be played in a couple days. Um, week one against the Atlas obviously didn't go great last year. I do think, as we've talked about ad nauseum, the injury to Jack Keelty was a big part of that. Just the defense not really knowing what everyone's role was. So assuming that everyone stays healthy on both sides of the ball, um, and particularly with this being the second game for the Atlas, their homecoming, like I gotta think the Cannons are gonna take this one. Um, like they've for sure improved their defense. I mean I would be astounded if the Atlas were able to score 19 again. Um,
Mm-mm, it's not
yeah,
gonna happen.
no. So I do think as well, they have a real, not, no offense to Matt Cavanaugh, they have a lefty attackman that I think we feel a little bit more confident in. Um, and just, yeah, the offense I think is gonna function a lot better. They're gonna push a lot more. Maybe we'll see the first of those 3 to 5 2-pointers from Ethan Rawl. Um,
I know that's right. Let's go, Ethan.
yeah. So I don't know, as like a semi-official score prediction, I'll say 15-12 Cannons.
I'm gonna go 12-9.
Oh, interesting. You think?
Cannons, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't. It's going to be tough to keep that offense in check. I think you know Jeff Teat did. I mean, he's not going to get 11 points again like he did last year, but um, yeah, that'll be if we keep them to single digits. I will feel so good about that. Um, yeah,
Maybe I'm really hopeful, but
yeah. I mean, we saw like last year. Um, they put up a bunch of goals against the Cannons, and the next day they get out to like an 11 to nothing lead or 11-1, something like that, and then like you could see that fatigue set in. Like they they
mm,
they started getting tired, and they just fortunately for the Atlas built themselves enough of a lead that the Whips didn't have enough time to come back. Um, so if something similar happens this coming weekend, yeah, I feel a lot better about the Cannons' chances to
yeah.
hold that off to quiet that offense, and particularly when you're tired, like the defense is the first thing that goes because you're reacting, you expend a lot more energy. So. Uh,
Hmm.
Maybe we'll split the difference. Maybe it'll be 15-9 Cannons.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of new guys, right? And they have only a few days to play together and to try to learn how to play with one another to get that win, right? But I think our guys are fresh and they're ready to go.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, yes, they're all new, but I think like Alec talked about, I think everyone knows their role.
Mm-hmm.
Where with Keelty going down, someone else had to take his role.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's not the case now. I think, he knows his role as the communicator.
Yeah.
Everyone else in that defense knows what they're doing. And then on the offensive side of the ball as well,
Mm-hmm.
Holman, Nolting, we talked about, it seems kind of like it's probably going to be Will Manny on that left side rather than McAsee, based on what Alex said. Um,
I want to see Makasi play, right? But I'm so ready to see Manny in that Cannons uniform
yeah.
out there on the field.
It is so overdue. It is so
Yeah.
overdue. And I think too, like Coach Holman probably learned the lesson last year. Now, Coulter has had a little more time off because Notre or Princeton was not playing in the national championship, but
Hmm.
to go back and forth between graduation, the Tewaaraton ceremony, and training camp and make your debut all in the same week is it's
It's a
a lot of
lot.
travel. It's
Hmm.
a lot of fatigue and not a lot of time with your teammates. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Manny week one, and after that we'll see. We're definitely going to see Coulter
Yeah.
very soon, but it's probably not this weekend. And I could not predict who else is going to fill out that roster. I think the defensive side of the ball, basically everyone from Zach Tucci down, I think we
Hmm.
know, but I know that's not true because you got four D mids for three spots, and again, you feel good, Goodrich and Trainer in there, but between
Hmm.
Comizio and Ben Ramsey, no idea. Um,
Yeah.
and the same with the midfield. I think Campbell, Drenner, Connor Kirst, pretty much locks, but between um, uh, Lee
Rodaro.
and Verdaro and Jonathan Donville and let's see, you got the roster here. I mean, they're listed attack, but who knows? Brian Kelly and Graydon Hogg, who also made the 25 man. Like, I feel like we're going to see one of those guys at some point. Um, Still, at least week one, you probably give the edge to the guys who were drafted as midfielders, but you never know. I mean, the PLL is full of attackmen converted into midfielders, and no better example of that than Ryan Drenner. So,
True.
um, yeah. Well, whatever 19 guys are on the field, we'll be cheering for them. Again, from West End Johnnies or at West End Johnnies. We'll get there at 6:30, throw the game on, cheer as the Atlas go 0-2 in their homecoming weekend and make everyone in upstate New York sad. Everyone in upstate New York except Casey, that is.
That's right. I'll be happy.
Yep. Waving that Jeff Trainer fathead around.
That's right. If you see it, know it's me.
Yep.
I'm bringing
And
the fatheads to Albany.
yep. Awesome. So thank you all for listening. Thanks to Alec, and until Saturday when the Cannons play again for the first time in too long. Go Cannons.
Go Cannons.
Boom.
Boom.